Go to the Cowboys. Speaking of a team that likes to talk, they showed that the D in Big D will hopefully now stand for defense. Dallas drafting Ohio State safety Caleb Downs with the number 11 pick as they moved up a spot, and UCF edge rusher Malachi Lawrence with the 23rd pick after allowing a franchise record 511 points last season. Back with our crew here. Dano, did the Cowboys, did they win the first round of the draft last night? Holding those picks, also improving and collecting more with a couple fourth-rounders.
Yeah, they had a great first round. I think the NFC East in general had a great first round, candidly. I think when you look at Caleb Downs and you listen to really smart football people talk about Caleb Downs, they rave about his versatility, his football ability, his intelligence. And this was a defense last year in Dallas. Their safeties were absolutely ate up. 72% completion percentage. They gave up 10 first downs, over 120 passer rating when quarterbacks threw that way. I'll be fascinated to watch Christian Parker, who's their new defensive coordinator, use them. I would imagine they would use Caleb Downs in a similar way that the Eagles did with Cooper DeJean. And then Malachi Lawrence, I was tipped off a little bit just watching Chris Long, the ex-great Philadelphia Eagle and Los Angeles Ram, or St. Louis Ram, talk about him. He raved about his talent. So a Cowboys team that had massive defensive issues got two very, very good defensive players.
And Graz right here next to me. Yesterday, we were talking about the one thing you can say about the Cowboys, they draft really well.
And discipline.
And they did a really good job last night. How do you view it, especially moving up one spot, then dropping back three?
So they had a list of guys they wanted on defense, and really by the time Sonny Styles went off the board at 7, Downs was the one that was left. So they tried to get up to 9 with Cleveland, couldn't do it because they were worried the Giants were going to take Caleb Downs. And then after that didn't happen, they go up one spot just to make sure nobody jumps over them and cost them 2 fifth-round picks, which then they get back and more, getting 2 fourths from the Eagles when they trade down later in the round. So they end up getting their guy, the guy that can get things and keep things organized on the back end of their defense. I had a chance to talk earlier this week with Matt Patricia, the Ohio State defensive coordinator. I asked him about his guys. He said, Downs is anything you want him to be. He said he's the best punt returner in this draft. Said he's used him last year. Like, he can do that. If you go back and look at, like, how he covered Tyler Warren 2 years earlier or the year before. So I think they got the perfect player for them with their first pick, and I thought they got good value later.
I mean, when you look at Downs, I think everybody that followed him in college football at Alabama, when he walked on campus, Nick Saban was blown away. I mean, this young man was designing plays as a 4-year-old. He's a savant. I'm not kidding. His mom said that. He was putting together stuff, so we understand. What do you think of this idea and this fit with Downs here?
Yeah, I was there that first spring. I covered the spring game. I remember talking to Nick Saban and Kevin Steele, the current defensive coordinator. They both said the first day he stepped on a football field, he was an alpha leader for us immediately, and he was the smartest football player on the field as a true freshman leaving high school early. So you know the type of player he's going to add to Dallas. I also love what they did with Malachi Lawrence. You got a guy who had the second fastest 10-yard split, right? There's a lot of questions about, what type of product he's going to be, but he is dynamic and explosive off the edge when they needed that. So they have an elite tackler, elite leader in Downs. They address the pass rush. And also something we haven't really talked about either, the timing of George Pickens signing that franchise tag. Whatever happens, at least gives them flexibility today and through the window of this draft to decide what that future looks like if any other teams are entertaining that idea to trade for him.
Let's get our defensive guy away. And what do you think of what the Cowboys did? Because they had a ton of holes on the defensive side in the offseason. They addressing 2 of them specifically here last night.
Yeah, we're all talking about how Caleb Downs is like super advanced PhD level defensive player, but the Cowboys, they got to get their high school diploma, and I think Caleb Downs helps them in that way also because one of their biggest issues last year was missed tackles. He doesn't miss tackles. Another big issue, blown coverage that led to explosive plays. If he's as smart as we all know he is, he's going to be sure to make sure that defense is in the right coverage in every down and communicate that to everyone on the field. I think there's some things about safeties that go accounted for. And it's not necessarily all the big plays that they make, but it's the big plays that they eliminate by making clear tackles in the open field and ensuring that the rest of the secondary is in the right position. I think that's a huge value that we're not necessarily going to see. There's no stat for how many explosive plays that you've eliminated because you're smart enough to keep the defense in position. And then, of course, Malachi Lawrence, I think, is going to be a great player, particularly on important downs, 3rd and long, 3rd and medium. Make sure he uses that incredible 10-yard split to get off the line and get sacks and create havoc in the backfield. They did an excellent job in this draft.
Happiest guy in Dallas last night was Christian Parker, the new defensive coordinator coming from the Eagles, and he coached the secondary there under Vic Fangio. He gets 2 critical pieces, so we will see how this plays out with the George Pickens saga over the next couple days. Coming up, is it too early for love? Did the Cardinals make them? Friday morning, Kevin Nagandi here with you back on Get Up, and Arizona we go, where the Cardinals ended up keeping the 3rd pick and then drafting Notre Dame running back Jeremiyah Love, making him the first running back drafted in the top 5 since Saquon Barkley went to the Giants at number 2 in 2018. This was an interesting conversation, debatable throughout the day yesterday. And let's go to Graz first. Your reaction to this pick?
You got to make me be the bad guy.
Not at all. You provide fantastic context, specifically at the number 3 spot, not so much the player.
Awesome player.
Yeah.
Terrible pick. Like at 3, it doesn't make sense to take a running back unless you're. I mean, like if the Rams had the 3rd pick, right, and they're ready to go, and maybe. But the reason it doesn't make sense is financial. There is a salary cap in the NFL. The rookie contracts are all slotted. The 3rd pick is going to get the same contract no matter what position he plays. In this case, it's $52.5 million over 4 years, $13.1 a year. That is almost as much money per year as Jonathan Taylor makes from the Indianapolis Colts. Look, 1 pick later, the Titans take Carnell Tate, wide receiver. His annual salary is going to be roughly a little bit less than what Khalil Shakir makes from the Buffalo Bills. What you have there is value. He can outplay his rookie contract. Jeremiyah Love really can't. Like, if he plays at the top level, he's already getting paid like a top running back. So you're going to have to find some kind of bargain somewhere else as you build your roster out. And that's why a team like Arizona sitting at 3, with maybe the 3 best teams in the league last year in their division, not ready to win right now, it's not the right pick for them. But I always say the teams that pick in the top 5 every year are not there because they're good at it.
Dano looks like somebody just gave him a spicy breakfast. Some spice in your food here, Dan? Give us your reaction.
Oh, Graz, I love you, man.
Thank you.
Okay. Living in the reality of the Cardinals having to choose a pick at 3, right? We all know that they were trying to trade back, couldn't find a partner. They have to take a player at 3. What is better, to take a player that you unequivocally believe is the likeliest to become very good at football, or try to find better value at a different position? They weren't taking a wide receiver. No, it's not. The Cardinals are not competing to become champions. That's not a realistic thought process, because they're not
that
there.
was the point of the exercise.
The Cardinals have to. No, it's not. The point of the exercise for like 6 to 8 teams is to win the Super Bowl. Yes. The point of the exercise for the Cardinals is try to get better at football so you can compete and win games. That's realistically where they are. The best way to do that is to add good football players and figure out the salary cap later. They have the most cap space in the NFL in 2027. They got the most cap space in the NFL in 2028. They have 2 players on their football team making more than $10 million. Take good football players and don't overthink this. That was the right decision.
Neek, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I understand the logic behind what Graz is saying, but I think what it comes down to, the reason why I think it wasn't a good choice was not, no, let me finish. The reason why I think it wasn't a good choice was not because you're paying him a lot of money. Like, I don't mind paying a running back a lot of money if we are in a situation where we're prepared to get the most out of that running back. I think the reason to be critical of this choice is not because he's going to be one of the top running backs paid. The reason to criticize this is because they don't have a good O-line. They don't have a quarterback. Normally, you need these things in order for your running back, for you to get the value out of this pick. Now, in their meager defense, I would say that it doesn't matter the order that you put the ingredients into the bowl. So if they go and get a quarterback next year and they build an O-line that works this season and through into next season, then it all comes to fruition and it's fine. However, You've wasted a year of a position that is not very durable at a very high price. So it's a risky maneuver. I don't like it as a choice. I wouldn't have done it, but I have to assume that they have some sort of plan, and drafting good players is the most important thing you can do at a draft, which is Dan's point. I agree with him there. But there were other good players out there. Arvell Reese.
Arvell Reese
pretty damn good player. Would have been nice.
I want to show that Dan's going to contradict himself a little bit here, because why I didn't like the pick is because it cost Arizona a franchise quarterback. There was only 2 franchise quarterbacks in this draft. If Ty Simpson is good enough for the Rams, who don't need him, at 13, then he is good enough at 3 for the Cardinals. Why? Because we have raved about, Dan and me, Les Snead and McVay, about how this is a perfect fit schematically.
Yeah.
Who was the offensive coordinator for the Rams the last 3 years?
Mike LaFleur.
Mike LaFleur. Where's he at?
He's the head coach of the Cardinals.
So at 3, you should have taken your franchise quarterback. Because if the Rams believe he's their franchise guy and they don't need him right now, you sure as hell need a quarterback. You took Love, and not that he's not a great player, but it cost you an opportunity for the future at a position and a guy that fit perfectly.
Dano, jump in.
Jordan, I don't all that disagree with that thought. And the Cardinals wanted him. I know that, okay? I don't disagree with that. I have been adamant in saying, listen, taking him in the top 5, meaning Ty Simpson, because of the college starts, feels like, all right, you're losing even me. So I
like
think
you will.
Just
like Mendoza might.
But that I would have been like, whoo, this is super aggressive. I don't disagree with that. My only thought is this. I'm guessing they wanted to go back so they could secure Ty Simpson. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Rams took him at 13, because they knew the Cardinals and another team or 2 were coming. Okay, so I would say this. Just like the Jets now look attractive for whoever their first-round quarterback is going to be next year, as does Arizona. If you tell the Arizona Cardinals fans, hey, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., you got Mike Wilson, you got Trey McBride, and you got Jeremiah Love. Whatever quarterback you take in the first round next year, you got some good talent to work with.
Dan, I'm gonna play one
This is a future pick, not a now pick.
I'm going to play one scenario. Do you feel differently? They had the 2nd pick tonight. Do you feel differently if they draft Garrett Nussmeier?
No.
You don't feel
and
differently?
I love Garrett, but Ty was
Love?
the perfect fit. And I think Nuss, with the injury concerns, he was a gunslinger when he was healthy. Like Ty, sit him behind Jacoby for half a year, just like Mendoza's going to do, and you had a perfect fit, and you can add talent around him. Because like Dan said, they do have talent, even without Love.
Yeah.
Now with Love, they have a ton of talent. Even without him, I just thought the fit, if someone's going to take him at 13 and doesn't need him, at 3, you don't pass him up just because you couldn't get a little bit of cheese to move back a couple
Neek, final thought, quick, go.
Yeah, I was rooting for Dan to wriggle out of that sack, but Jordan got him. I mean, he caught him there. If you got a quarterback that you think is going to be really good, and he's at 3, who you think is better than Mendoza, you got to draft him. You're right. I wanted you to win. I'm trying to fight for the running back. I'm trying to fight for unorthodox decision-making and taking a risk. But right there, yeah, trying to get too cute. You think you're going to get your quarterback later?
Dan's
about position of value.
Dan's got to go. Dan, I appreciate you joining us here. Appreciate you wearing the tie. Some context, too. Minshew and Brissett are the quarterbacks right now in Arizona. We'll see. Dan, thank you.
Love you, Dan.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. Get some spice on the eggs. Coming up.